welcome to my podcast. I am Charles Dobbins, the multifamily attorney and the founder of the Multifamily Investing Academy. And today on my podcast, because we don't waste any time, we get right into it, I have Yakov Smart here with us. Yakov, okay, now it says you, before I dig down deep into your biography, it touts you as an international recognized expert in a particular field, which we will talk about in a moment. And I think it's just because you have a foreign sounding first name, Yakov. So like you could be, born and raised in Brooklyn, but with a name like Yakov, you can always call yourself an internationally recognized guy at anything you do. So where are you from? What's your background? You're down in Scottsdale, Arizona now.
I am in Scottsdale. So my background, I came to the U.S. when I was about 18 months old. So tiny baby from Lithuania, which is over by Russia.
Yeah.
Eastern Europe.
Very cool.
And the name absolutely sounds international.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, besides that and being able to speak Russian, I mean, that's as international as it gets.
Yeah, you're as American as Chevrolet and apple pie.
Pretty much.
Now, Yakov, is that okay? I'd like to do the translations here. So, is that Jack? Is Yakov?
It's more like Jacob.
Jacob. Okay. I gotcha. Okay, now let's talk about here. Yakov is the thing that we're going to talk about. He's a leading expert when it comes to raising private capital, and we've been getting a lot of people on our podcast talking about raising private money, but you do it a specific way, which I think is very cool. Tapping into using LinkedIn. All right. He shared the stage with Samantha DeBianchi of Bravo's hit TV show $1 Million Listing and has been on numerous media outlets. And here he comes to the Multifamily Investing Academy's podcast. Successful podcast, I might add. They just gave me my numbers, and I was very, very happy with how well my podcast is doing. So welcome aboard, buddy.
Hey, good to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, let me just tell you, I'm gonna give you the lowdown, and then I'm going to let you run with it. And here's the lowdown. I am of the mindset that LinkedIn is just a pain in my ass. Okay, I've got so much other stuff going on. My VA posts all of my stuff on LinkedIn. If somebody sends me a message via LinkedIn, I don't see it for months. I don't even look at it. It's just to me, it's the Facebook for business. So how can you take a guy like me and convince me that LinkedIn is a tool that I should be using on a regular basis? How much more of a softball would you like? How much more is Yakov? Huh?
Man, so that's a really good question. And the very first thing you have to understand is that LinkedIn has changed a lot, okay? That LinkedIn isn't what it was even 2, 3, 4 years ago. That right now, engagement is an all-time high. There's about 675 million users, about 130 million accounts in the US. And where it starts to get really intriguing for a guy like yourself and for other people who are listening is that the average household income is $115,000. That's average. So the average person on LinkedIn is bringing in a 6-figure household income. Now, when it comes to LinkedIn's trends, they're expected to grow because Microsoft bought them, made a huge investment in LinkedIn. They're expected to get or the CEO has said anyway, that he wants to get to 2.2 billion users by the end of 2022. And these are people all around the world who are going to be on LinkedIn to build relationships and to build those business contacts. But where it gets better for a guy like yourself, or for any multifamily investor who's interested in raising capital, it's all about attracting high net worth investors. So what LinkedIn gives you the ability to do is to build a targeted list instead of having to go out there and pay a list broker and buy a list. It allows you to build a hyper-targeted list of high net worth investors. We're talking, think about any type of investor you could be looking for. It could be angel investors, it could be venture capitalists, it could be doctors, dentists, lawyers, plastic surgeons, you name it, US veterans who are CEOs of medium-sized corporations. It could be C-level executives at large companies. It could be people working at Google, right? So high net worth type of individuals that you want to invest in your projects, what LinkedIn gives you the ability to do is to build a list of those people within seconds where all that data is available, and to go out there and build those relationships and make those key contacts And to get that person from not knowing who you are to having a conversation about being part of your investor list and investing in your projects. And that's where the value of LinkedIn lies in terms of raising capital. It's all about having the right methodology and strategy for doing that.
Okay, you saw me put my head down several times because I've just been coming up with questions for you just on everything that you're talking about. So hold on a second. What you're saying is I've been using Facebook ads, and I know that everyone's telling me, oh, Facebook is a dino, don't use Facebook anymore. And everybody's saying like YouTube and Google, and you got to move in that direction. But the thing about Facebook is I was able to have my Facebook ad person be able to target markets or create an audience, I think is what they call it, create an audience based upon certain parameters. And I can target a market just to that audience that I've created. Does LinkedIn give you the same ability?
It's the same, and it's even more specific. There's less guesswork. And what it allows you to do, there is a LinkedIn advertising platform, right? Which is different. And it's not necessarily what I recommend for people raising capital.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. But what about a guy like me that would be advertising on Facebook? Like, for instance, I want to double my email database this year, and I've never even tapped into LinkedIn. What would you recommend a guy like me do? And like, I'm not against hiring a guy like you to go put the program together. What exactly do you do to do something like that?
The very first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take an organic approach, right? And so let's say you can build targeted lists just like you can on Facebook, but it's more specific on LinkedIn. You can find the exact types of individuals who are in key roles or high net worth individuals who have shown interest in real estate, right? And you would build that targeted list on LinkedIn. And it's more like direct mail than them seeing an ad. It's more like them connecting with you, and through receiving a message from you, they would then raise their hand and want to have a conversation about investing in your deals or at least being on your list for future investment opportunities.
Okay. All right. Now, how do you recommend, let's just say, we'll take it from, instead of starting at the 30,000 foot view, you're going to start me at the street level. What does a guy like me do on a daily basis with LinkedIn?
The biggest thing you can be doing, and this might come as a surprise, isn't posting content, right? Posting content is very much you post because you should be doing it. That's what a lot of people do. That's not going to get you anywhere on LinkedIn. I mean, the chances of that are very
okay.
low.
I just cracked. Okay, this is root beer. Okay, so I don't want anybody to think Yakov just made my head explode and I needed a drink of beer. It's late in the day. I'm having a root beer right now. So. But go on, because because I can tell you right now, based upon what you just said, I'm doing it all wrong. Because I have a VA who, I have a Saturday morning video that goes out every Saturday morning. My VA posts that to 30 different groups, or how many groups you can post it on, and that's all I do. That's all I do as far as LinkedIn goes. So you're telling me that that's not how it works. Right.
Well, let me ask you this question, right? And it's better than doing nothing. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's better than doing nothing. Okay?
Here it comes. I already know what the question is, but go ahead and ask it. Go ahead.
So posting those videos, how many?
I don't know. I don't know, Yakov. I just don't know. She just does it. Because like you said, I think I'm supposed to be doing this,
Yeah, and for a lot of people, it becomes a should, and it doesn't. You don't really know if it's even doing anything. It's just something that's being done.
Yeah,
right?
I know. So fix me.
Instead, what actually works is finding the right people and then having messaging in place. It's going to be outreach. And the difference between LinkedIn and email, you mentioned email, which was very interesting, is your open rate is much, 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 much higher because it's going directly this device right here. It's going directly to their cell phone, which is where these people are checking their messages. Okay. And what works really well, the system that you're going to want to set up is a series of messages that builds trust and credibility directly between you and that person using LinkedIn. And you can automate a lot of this and program a lot of this to work like an autoresponder. But the key is not to sound canned, and the key is to follow best practices, because the challenge, there's people out there that are trying this or think that they can, do this just by hearing that. The issue is, unlike if you met somebody at an in-person event or a networking event where you were introduced by your warm network, these people don't know you from Adam. They don't. And people who have money, high net worth individuals, guess what everybody's wanting them to do? Invest their money, right? The challenge is you need to say the right things. And before even reaching out to people, have a profile on LinkedIn that establishes your trust and credibility and also meets people where they're at. That isn't just about you and how great you are, but actually talks about some questions or concerns that they may have if they're interested in your deals.
Okay. So, now you mentioned this thing about messaging, LinkedIn messaging. Do I pay a premium to get that, or does that come automatically? Or there's something called InMail, or can I do any of that automatically, or do I have to upgrade my account? How does that all work?
You can message people with the free account. However, to be able to scale this up and ramp it up to where you want to get to, you're going to want the Sales Navigator account. It's a better list building tool. It gives you more bandwidth on LinkedIn. However,
Sales Navigator.
Yeah, so Sales Navigator.
Okay.
However, the actual messaging, if you want to scale it up, what I personally do and what our clients do is they're able to send 100 connections a day. They're able to send 100. So imagine you have a targeted list of, let's say, dentists in an area. And let's say you have 800 dentists on that list. Each day, 100 requests are going to go out from you to these dentists on that list, okay? And as soon as the dentist accepts the request, and there's different automation software that's available, after let's say 24 hours go by, which is what you can program it to, now you've got a chance to message them directly. And you've got a chance to continue that thread until they respond. And you can do that for weeks on end. And that's really where the wording and the strategy and the cadence becomes so important.
Okay, so you mentioned this automation software. Is that built into LinkedIn, or is that like a third-party platform?
Third-party platform, and there's a few different ones that I recommend. I'm not going to get into specific names on a podcast. However, I will say that they vary in price. There are some that are super complex, and they're like $600, $700 a month, which I think most multifamily investors, you just don't need that. The one that I recommend, usually those fall in anywhere between $50 to about $99 a month. So it's not, versus a place like Facebook where you're probably spending more than that a day on ads if you're doing it.
Yeah, believe me, I'm not so proud to say that's exactly true. Okay, so let me go. There's one thing that has turned me off about LinkedIn. And let's just talk, before we get into some other more nitty gritty, I just want to throw this one out at you. Those people that I call LinkedIn posers, do you know what I mean? No, you don't know what I mean. Okay, these are people that are like, oh, hey, I got so much money. I'm looking to buy all multifamily deals. I've been doing this thing. And it's like, no, you're not. You're just a guy with a LinkedIn profile who's trying to crack into a new business. There's so many people out there like that in LinkedIn that just kind of drive me crazy. And, I have the eye. I've been doing this long enough. I have the eye that I can figure out that guy's full of baloney. But you get those type of people on LinkedIn, and that's the part that drives me crazy about LinkedIn. So, I found some great connections on LinkedIn, but there are those people out there that are like, oh, good. I can get you a $250,000 loan, no credit check whatsoever. Those types of guys. As a matter of fact, I gotta deal with one of those guys as soon as I hang up this call, because one of my clients is getting, hey, should I sign up with this guy? It's like, no, God, no, don't ever sign up with those guys. They're a LinkedIn poser. That's what I call them. So, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, discernment is important, right? Anybody can say anything on their profile. Do your due diligence, certainly. Yeah. But there's, key things to look for, like their website. Do they have testimonials? How long have they been in the business, right? These are important things to look for.
Yeah.
And before, one of my big pet peeves is I hate getting on the phone with people who are going to waste time. right? I hate it. I think it's the biggest disrespect you can do to somebody is get them on the phone and waste their time. So if I'm talking to somebody who's a potential client or somebody who's a potential strategic partner, I want them, and I encourage people to do this with investors too, have them fill out a form, have them fill something out, have them jump through a hoop to indicate that yes, they are accredited, and yes, they are serious, because otherwise it's easy to waste a lot of time talking to the wrong people, and you certainly don't want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first got started way back when, and LinkedIn was a baby. I was looking to build my list. I would put out, I would be out there looking for deals, and I'd say, hey, anybody want to get on my wholesale list? And that is one way that I got a lot of people signed up to my list, all through LinkedIn. Now, I mean, I asked you about, what do you do on a daily basis? And we got to go back to this question because I'm sure there's a lot more. I mean, you talked about the LinkedIn automation. You talked about how you can set up those systems. But even before that, how do I set up my profile? Do you recommend I start my own group? Do you what should I do to be most effective on LinkedIn?
Right. So there's different strokes for different folks. There's not a one size fits all approach, and that's important to understand first and foremost. The very first thing would be you want to build that trust and credibility, because if your profile doesn't say that you're a trusted authority, if it doesn't build your credibility, if it doesn't position you in the way that you want to be positioned, again, this isn't a networking event. This isn't a warm referral. These people don't know you from anybody, right? And people with money are skeptical. I mean, one of the reasons why they have money is because they're careful with their money, right? So they may be interested in multifamily investment opportunities, but they're a little scared and they're a little skeptical, and frankly, they should be, right? Because there are people out there who will take advantage of people. So the profile is the very first impression. It's the first decision that they're going to make is whether or not to connect with you on LinkedIn. So it's important to have a profile that addresses your credibility, that addresses some of their concerns, and that gives them an avenue to find out a little more about you and the types of projects that you have available, okay? And the people that you want to attract on LinkedIn, the people who get it, who've actually invested in deals before and are actively looking, information first, okay? You need a way to lead with information and value. You need a way to lead with what I call education, right? Because for them to actually give you their money from a LinkedIn contact, it's certainly possible, it's certainly doable. However, a lot of people have that wall up. And if your profile doesn't do all those different things that I mentioned, then you risk losing people before even that first message. Because like I mentioned, if you can't message somebody unless they've connected.
Okay, now what about setting up your own group, or working that way towards finding the high net worth individuals, the investors? I mean, what do you think about that idea?
I'm not crazy about the idea for most people, okay? Because a group takes a lot of management and a lot of upkeep, and in theory, sure, could be a good idea. But for most people, and when I work with people, there's like, let's look at what's congruent and let's look at what's realistic, okay? And if you can raise money on LinkedIn without setting up a group and save yourself a lot of time and headache, that's what you'd probably rather do, right? So unless you already have a group online, it's a vibrant community that you can bring people into, I wouldn't, for most people right now, I wouldn't recommend starting a LinkedIn group from scratch. It's just a lot of work, and the return is considerably higher if you have better messaging up front and just get the right people on your list and on the phone.
Okay, Yakov, I got to ask you. I mean, you're a young guy. What's your background? Like, how'd you end up? How did a nice guy like you end up in a place like this? Talk to me.
That's a good question. So, I didn't wake up one day and have a dream about LinkedIn. That's not what happened. My background, I've always been marketing online. Since pretty much I was a college student, I found the world of online marketing. My first little online business idea, which you'll probably laugh, is I had the brilliant idea of writing an ebook for college students of how to succeed in college. And I was going to sell a lot of copies and make lots and lots of money. And what happened was I sold a few copies. I did sell them online, but that's when I first learned about the world of online marketing, this wonderful world that we're in. And I've had a couple of different podcasts too, done a couple of different things. But when I started to tap into LinkedIn, was I was actually working in sales and I was selling software to small business owners. Okay. And it was my job to generate new business and get appointments. And the only method that I had, and I did all the marketing and the sales, but the only method that I originally was using was picking up the phone and smiling and dialing. And if you've ever done that, it's
that's why I went to law school. I started off in the insurance business. I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to law school. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So it sucked. And from that, I, was thinking of ways to market and make key contacts. And I turned to LinkedIn and somehow I discovered a new way of using it. And this was several years ago before, there were a lot of the LinkedIn posers. This was even before Microsoft bought it. And then I sort of slipped into working with business owners, taking on clients. I wrote the book on the topic a few years ago as well. And at this point, I've worked with more than 100 business owners in different businesses. And discovering a methodology that's based. And I think it's really important for people to understand that for this to work for you, it needs to be very strategic. Okay, thinking strategically rather than hey, the mechanics of what button do I push. It doesn't matter what button you push if you're not utilizing the right strategy and if it's not rooted in the vision and the strategy for what's actually going to work. And what I've recognized, what you probably agree with as well, is when somebody has the ability to go out there and generate leads or find high net worth investors on their own terms without having to go to a networking event or knock on doors or do any of that stuff, when they can go beyond their warm network and self-generate their own leads, the sky's the limit. And it's the best way for a business owner to put themselves back in control of their business and their income.
So you kind of took, you did what I did. You got out of college. You went and took that sales job because you were, smooth talking, good looking guy. I know what you're talking about. And then, you're selling a product that you just, you can't stand it. But you see a connection of your college days of the, you sold something on the internet back in college. And as they say, if you can make $1 on the internet, you can make $1 million. And then you thought, LinkedIn, hey, how can I put the two together? And that's why we're here today is because of your LinkedIn, linkedleads.us. That's your website, right?
That's my website. And if people are listening to this, there's a free cheat sheet that we've got. It's three surprising ways any real estate entrepreneur can start raising capital on LinkedIn today.
That's actually exactly right. Yeah, that's it. You got every word right on that one. So
I came up with it. So that's good.
That doesn't mean anything. Believe me, when you get to be my age, you forget all those types of things. I have to call Deb down in Florida and say, hey, Deb, what are we calling that webinar? What was the name I came up with it on yesterday? She goes, oh, yeah, that sounds really good. Let's do that. But yeah, so tell everybody how they can get this free PDF.
Yeah. So if they go to Linked Leads, it's not LinkedIn Leads, it's linkedleads.us/raising capital. linkedleads.us/raising capital.
And does the R and the C on raising capital have to be capitalized because it's after the slash? No,
I don't think it matters. I always put it lowercase. I think it'll get you there either way.
Okay, cool. All right, so everyone, that's Linked Leads, and I'm going to put this in the show notes. linkedleads.us/raising capital if you want to get his free PDF. Now the other thing too is, and I'm going to go and I think you and I will be talking a little bit more because I told Deb we have to double our database. We have to double our database. That's just the name of the game. But linkedleads.us, what am I going to find when I go there? Tell me about your business.
So when you go to the website, it's going to give you an overview of some of the opportunities on LinkedIn and the challenges that people face. There's some additional, getting the cheat sheet if somebody's in multifamily, they want to specifically raise capital. It's very specific strategies designed for that. And then we're really getting into working with a lot of multifamily type of investors and syndicators. So that capital raising cheat sheet is a good way to start. There's also a few webinars that I believe are on the website that somebody can go to and watch. We'll give them some more detail on what's possible and some of the strategies. And there's a little more information on my background in the book. And The
Yeah,
other
and
way to
I got to
find them.
clarify something. I know we started this presentation by saying, do you want to know what you're going to look like 30 years from now? Because you look like I did back then. But now I see your picture here with the tight T-shirt. I never look like that in a T-shirt. Okay, so I take back everything I said before. So I was never that ripped or cut. I never needed a tailor. That's for sure. So. All right, cool. So I'm going to dig into this because I'm going to, you've given me some tips, especially this LinkedIn Navigator. Never heard of it. Trying to track down people that way. I never heard of it. Didn't know I could do that with LinkedIn. So that's pretty cool. That's cool stuff. So we're going to dig into more. I think you'll be hearing more from me, Mr. Smart, Agent Smart. We're going to call you Agent Smart. And then let me ask. Smart has got to be an Americanized name from Lithuania, right? No.
Well, I mean, so if people look up my book, if they look up Disrupting LinkedIn, which is on Amazon, if they look it up, they're going to see a different last name.
Are they really? Okay. Oh,
They
okay. That's
are.
cool. That's cool.
They are. Now, the story behind that is very quickly. I was sitting in a mastermind group once, and we were talking, and somebody said, you've got to make your name a little easier to say because your first name is unique enough, but if you've got an unusual sounding last name, something's got to give. So I came up with a different last name, and
that's awesome.
It's much easier to say, and it's certainly memorable too, right? Because I haven't met any other Yakov Smarts out.
Yeah, and I saw it come across my email. I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. This guy's got a name. There's a story behind this name. I know there is. And I was right. I nailed it. Yep. That's so cool. That is so cool. So, and did you, when your parents came over here, did they end up in Arizona or did they end up somewhere else and you ended up in Arizona?
I ended up in Arizona. They ended up in Atlanta, which is where I grew up. They still live in Atlanta. And then when I finished my college days, I went to school in real rural Georgia, like as rural as it gets. And I took a detour before I came to Arizona to a place called Vegas. And I lived in Vegas for a couple of years because that's where I wanted to be. And now I'm out in Scottsdale, which I love. I mean, I think it's the best of both worlds. Even though it's hot, there's opportunities to travel in the summer and get out of here. But, we just finished up the past couple of months. It was gorgeous out here, our springtime. And now I'm looking outside and it's starting to be 100 degrees. So
okay,
other than the heat, Arizona's.
Okay, listen, I don't want to hear your problems because I can tell you, I'm here in New Hampshire, okay?
Ooh.
Beautiful, beautiful state. But today is probably the second day in 2020 that's hit the 60s. We're not up in Canada. We are this is how bad the spring has been. But you're telling me about how beautiful it is there and about to hit the hundreds. Hey, sign me up. Sign me up. So all right, his name is really Yakov Smart, okay? And if you don't believe him, you heard it here first. So, and his website is linkedleads.us. Go download his cheat sheet. Listen to this podcast. Go check out that LinkedIn Navigator. You can sign up for his programs. He's got LinkedIn Marketing Department in a box. That sounds like a pretty good multifamily REI LinkedIn Lead Accelerator. Oh, you clever boy, you really target marketing us multifamily investors. Good for you. So, but definitely everyone check it out. And Yakov, thanks so much for being on my podcast. It's great to meet you.
You too, Charles. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
Bye-bye.